Hello, and welcome to another edition of Cultural Conversations with the Big South. I'm your host, Darius Thigpen, and our next guest is in GOAT territory. She is set to be inducted into the American Basketball Hall of Fame this summer, the only woman of the 21 inductees, which includes the likes of Bob Knight, Larry Bird, and the Iceman, George Gervin. She's known at the University of Tennessee as hard to handle Randall, but the UConn fans, well, they just called her Boo. She is Winthrop's women's basketball head coach, Semeka Randall, the Hall of Famer. How does that sound, Coach?
Uh, Weird, I must say, but an honor to receive such a prestige award and be among some of the greats to ever play this game. So truly, truly honored to be a part of it.
It's a big honor to be inducted into any Hall of Fame. But for real quick, before we get into your whole career, Coach, I just want to hear the story again. For anyone who doesn't know, how did you end up with the nickname Boo Randall?
So, okay, great. That's a perfect way to start this thing off, huh? Okay, so this was my junior year at University of Tennessee, and obviously history behind it is that when it came for me deciding what school I would attend, it was between UConn and Tennessee, and the reason why I chose between those two is because I wanted to win a championship. So, uh, if I could just give you a tad bit insight, when I had to make the phone call to Gino, it wasn't a pleasant call. I was nervous, and he said some words, and uh, he hung the phone up on me. So the rivalry between him and I have always been there. But that year, we actually played UConn three times. We played them one time at our place, ended up losing a game there, and then we came back and played them at their place. And obviously, we played them. We ended up playing each other in a national championship game. But let's go back to when we played them at their place. There was an incident that happened. Let's just say a jump ball occurred. I wouldn't let go of the ball, and Abrasamova wouldn't let go of the ball. But it appeared in the UConn eyes of their fans that I body slammed her. I always say internationals like to, you know, give a little extra to it, but leading up to the next time that I like touched the basketball, the UConn fans would boo me. So if I had the ball for a second, if I had it for 10 seconds, it would boo or boo really, really quick. So I ended up carrying that name. What made that game really like just the icing on the cake is at the end of the game, there needed to be a shot. Like I think we were down by one. Coach called a timeout, drew up a play. Play was actually intended for Tamika, but all in my mind is like, I want this one moment. And so I'll live with coach being upset with me or whatever. I rejected the ball screen and ended up, I got fouled, by the way. Sue Bird uh, hit me on the wrist and I ended up hitting a jump shot. I turned around, saluted Gino. We win the game. We
Mhm.
get back to Knoxville and they're announcing the starting lineup. And so number 21, Semeka Boo Randall. That's how I end up having the nickname Boo. So no one called me Semeka, which you couldn't call me Semeka because of all the Meeks on the team. But then I became just Boo Randall.
Oh, that's so perfect, Coach. I mean, just in case anyone thought that Dawn Staley was going to try to run with that, she was the original Boo. It was you.
All day, all day. She can have it though, but yes, I'm the first.
So, Coach, you're originally from Cleveland, Ohio. You were recruited by the Pat Summit to play at Tennessee. You made your choice for Tennessee over UConn. You're in that same recruiting class as Tamika Catchings, and you two were dominant from the start. Really, perfect record in that first season, going on to a title. And reading at least one account of the season, I saw that you kind of sparked the whole run with a game high 24 points off the bench in a win against Ole Miss to start conference play. But just thinking back to your time in Knoxville, how did that whole period, making those buzzer beaters, big performances off the bench, how did that set you up for your whole basketball journey?
I mean, I just with that team and just being at UT, we just love competing. We love to play basketball. I always said that we much prefer practice over games because at least practice lasted a little bit longer and we had bragging rights, whether we were going against each other or against our practice players. We just loved competing and we wanted to like bury you. It wasn't about trying to win by 1, 2. If we could beat you by 30, that was our goal.
Oh, goodness. And I can only imagine how competitive it would have been. But you were coached by Pat Summitt. You battled against Sue Bird and Gino Auriemma at UConn, as you mentioned. Played alongside Hall of Famers, part of the Three Meeks. You had so much to learn from during your time at Tennessee, and specifically from Coach Summitt. You had a lot to learn about the game of basketball. I'm just so curious about that relationship. How did that go? How did you learn how to kind of conduct yourself in such a competitive and tough environment, dealing with a hard as nails coach such as Pat Summitt?
Well, it's different. That was the first time me ever being coached by a female, so that was an adjustment for me just because I've had male coaches throughout my middle school and high school career, and so getting there and being coached by a female, which she was a female that kind of coached like a guy, always threw me off a little bit just because I think when it's a female, you tend to almost like that mother and daughter relationship sometimes they don't always go well. It's like, ah, here she's nagging, getting on me, and like you're trying to tune her out. But with Pat, one thing I appreciated with her is she really took time to know all of us as individuals. A lot of at that time, a lot of our athletes we were all coming from single parent homes, and so like she really had to kind of figure out what made us tick a little bit or how she can speak to us. And so it was always a work in progress between her and I because we had this personality analysis that we took all the time because we have a sports psychologist back in that day. And it was funny, like when we did those forms, Coach Summit and I both had the same identical numbers. And so what that means, we bumped heads a lot. I always felt like I was in her doghouse. If you ask some of my teammates, they go, "No, Meek, you weren't. We felt like Pat was catering to you." And I'm like, "You just don't know behind the scenes where she was just chewing me out." But I could take it, and that's one of the things I think just from my background growing up and being again raised by a single mother, like I had thick skin. So there were days where I just didn't agree with what Coach said, but I was open to hearing what she said. I just might not have liked it in that moment. And then I could always step up and say, hey, you know what? I made a mistake and let's move on from that. But I learned so much when we talk about her definite dozen of just how change is a must. And, you represent more than just yourself. So I think sometimes as athletes, we come in me because of all the awards and accolades that you receive. But when I got to Tennessee, everybody was like me or better. And so we had to learn quickly, like, how can I take my talent to make this team better and not always think about myself? And I think Pat did a great job of balancing that out between all of us.
I want to go back to something you kind of mentioned just there. You referenced the fact that Coach Summit was the first woman who coached you for a number of your players. I'm sure going through AAU and going through high school and into college, it's a little bit of the same. Does it make a difference for young women having women as their coaches in a positive or a negative way? I'm very curious of how that relationship sometimes goes with players.
I think it's different. I think sometimes females oftentimes receive constructive criticism from guys a little bit different than they
Mhm.
do females. Like I mentioned before, sometimes we think it's our mom, and I like majority females when you're young, you tend to bump heads with your mom all the time. Where if your dad said that same thing, you'd be like, "All right, dad, I'll do better. Sorry." And whereas mom, we may have an attitude or a little bit of a will be standoff because we don't really want to hear it from them. So I think it's a big adjustment, and
Mhm.
and really, um, we have more men at times at that lower level, which what I'm referring to, high school, middle
Mhm.
school, and AAU that are coaching women's basketball a little bit more. It's great to see that more females are doing it just for the simple fact from a mental standpoint, we can share like all the nuance they'll go to. I think sometimes guys, no offense when I make this comment, they just kind of they don't pay attention to that stuff. They're like, hey, who cares about that? There's less emotion by it. Just do it. Whereas at different times, female need to hear that emotional side of it. But again, like being coached by Coach Summits, it was like, she had male moments, and it's like, no crying. What, grow up. Randall, you just got to grow up, and you be like, man, I need you to be like understanding. And I know that's I'm mini Pat in those regards, because she was teaching us about how we had to have toughness to be able to survive in today's world. So it helps you when you walk away from basketball and you step into your career, your profession, that you're not gonna get swallowed up by other people in your job field. Like you can handle whatever's thrown at you.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what that transition looked like from you going from a player where you were winning gold medals, winning national titles, made it to the WNBA. You made that transition into coaching. It's not always a straightforward journey, right? It's not always an easy path to go from playing into coaching. Did you always know that you were going to want to go into coaching? Was it something that kind of popped up on you? What did that period kind of look like for you?
I had no idea, no clue. I'm thankful that one of my mentors at that time, Al Brown, who coached me at the University of Tennessee, kind of introduced the coaching aspect to me. And he told me like there was a job in my hometown. Cleveland State was my first job. He said, hey, you should come here. This would be a pretty good opportunity to just see if you would be interested in coaching. And that's kind of how I got my first start. And even when I went through that experience of coaching, and I felt like I was in dual roles, because now we have tons of roles now. I was like the director of basketball operations
Mhm.
slash third assistant coach. So I had my doing a little bit of everything and screwing everything up, still thinking I knew everything. That would never leave me, like that ego. But it was a learning curve for me. So I did not initially think that coaching would be my where I would end my career, or get started in this. And it's been fun. Like it's not been super easy. Uh, Learning, it's a competitive field. A lot of people are coaching. There's a lot of great coaches out there, and one thing about it, you got to learn how to be a team player. And when you get into the coaching as an assistant, or say being on a support staff with that.
Well, you mentioned how similar you and Coach Summit were personality-wise, right? You once in an interview when you were at Cincinnati, you mentioned that your coaching style is very similar to your playing style. So I think we can kind of infer a little bit of what each of those are like the toughness being a part of everything. But I'm just curious, like, do you still think that that's the case, that your coaching style and your playing style are kind of similar to one another, or have you changed as a coach in the last
Oh,
several years?
I think you've had to evolve, but it comes out. Like I don't think you lose that. Like I'm very passionate.
Hmm.
I absolutely love this game, and I've become a student of this game. So like the details, I think are super important in helping you be successful. And so I hold our student athletes accountable to that. And they're always like, why? I need to cut these corners, but like it doesn't help you when when you're chasing championships. And so I know, even though at Winthrop we haven't won since 2014, I still want to try to put us in that path of what that feeling feels like. So I'm encouraging them, or I'm like on them every day, like how they need to step up and give to a team like they've never given before. Because I think sometimes as an athlete, we put ourselves in a box. And I remember doing that a lot. And Pat was like, you got to live outside the box. You got to there's more you can give. And I never forget, there were days where she'll bench me because she's like, you're not being a great team player. And so like I'm sitting on the bench clapping like, is she gonna put me back in? I was like, well, I better change my tune. So now I'm standing up and I'm like super into our team. And that's helped me understand that there's more to you that you can give to this game versus being about offense or defense, like just being a good team player.
And so, how do you take those lessons from your playing days and from early coaching days and implement it into Winthrop? How are you using all of these lessons into shaping and building this program?
I mean, the big thing you share those stories. I think they're valuable. Sometimes I know as a athlete in this area, it goes in one ear and out the other. Same thing happened to me, but I'm starting to watch our athletes now that they're seeing that some positive things are happening to our program. You're starting to see them change their demeanor and now they're starting to really respect the game. Like they're getting in the gym, they're staying uh but before and after practice, they're getting shots up, they're watching film with coaches. Like when you start to care, that's when for me, I feel like that's when I know this program is starting to make its change in a positive way.
Yeah, and you're in year four as the head coach, going back to the time as the interim head coach in 2021 season. Well, now that you've had a little bit of time to kind of shape the program into your image, where do you see Winthrop being on that journey? Are they starting to get to where you want? Is it still going to require a little bit more time, or are there those signals like you kind of just mentioned where it's like you see the flashes?
I absolutely see flashes of us doing some really cool things. I still think it still needs time. Like this is not an overnight thing, and the transfer portal has been helpful, especially this year, this season. We do got a great group of players, but it just takes time. Like when you think about like Dawn Staley and her journey at South Carolina, like year 4 and 5 went great, but it started to change year 7, where now, I mean, we just think Dawn been doing this since day one, and
Right.
it's just again, things wasn't built overnight, and you just got to kind of keep implementing the morals and the values and core values that you want your program to represent. And it's very telling when you look at her program. And that's the
Yeah.
thing that we're trying to do here at Winthrop. We're just trying to put those core things like respect and accountability are super important. And then building on those each year.
Such a good point, pointing out that it took a lot of time to build up South Carolina. They weren't the number one team overnight. So when you look at what South Carolina was able to do, it took a lot of goals that they had to meet along the way. Same for you with Winthrop. When we're looking at the second half of this season, going into February and rolling toward the end of the year, what are the goals for the team down the stretch?
I think it's super important for our team to mesh well, meaning like we've got a core five that has started a game for us, and they've done some really good things for us. But we need help, and in order for us to be better, we need more production, and
Mhm.
it doesn't always have to be equate to points. Like bench production and defending, to rebounding the basketball, or just having great energy plays that we're getting on 50-50 balls and creating positive energy for our basketball team. That's what I'm looking forward to as we roll into the second part, because I know that how important they are. Still, our five that we put out there, they need to continue to carry on what they've been doing, and I'm gonna even ask for more from them. But our bench, I think, is super important because we got some talented young ladies who, maybe haven't got the minutes that they wanted, or it might have been too focused on when they were getting their minutes and missed their opportunity. Like I just want them when they get out there, step out there, leave everything out on the floor, and even when you're subbed out, don't worry about, oh man, coach took me out. Just know, think the whoever come in, the next woman up, hey, you should look them in the eye and say, you got this. We need this from you. So that's positive energy being carried throughout our team. And I think we're starting to get that, and it's funny because I just got out of practice. Like this was the first time that I felt that energy in the right spot where there was good, positive talking on the sideline. Even when people made mistakes, they were actually trying to help them figure it out. I think that can only help our basketball team.
Yeah, that shared accountability. That's beautiful to see,
Yep.
Coach. So zooming out a bit, taking a look just at the wider landscape of women's basketball right now, I want to get your take on the state of the sport in the moment because it feels like there have been several inflection points in the past, whether it was the likes of Elisa Leslie, Candace Parker, Brittany Griner becoming household names. Viewership of last year's final, it set records. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Dawn Staley, these are all household names now. To me, it feels like we're in a period of sustained growth for women's basketball, for college basketball in particular. That certainly seems to be true at the top. How do you think it's looking across the landscape at all levels, whether it's mid majors, high majors, at the grassroots level. Is this a period where women's basketball is just going to continue to rise, or is it something where it's like we have to continue to build to make sure that it's not just a moment?
Well, that's a loaded question because I think it's both. I think,
Okay.
women's basketball is in a really, really good spot and it's tons of excitement that's out there. But Dawn said it really made a statement the other day. It's always been there. It's now the viewership is up.
Right.
The media is like really thriving. The women's movement has helped empower a lot of this talk about women. But women been doing this for a very, very long time. People just been sleeping on it. When you think about the Teresa Edwards of the day to um, uh, Dawn Staley, obviously when she played to my teammate Shamika Holdsclaw, like you can just keep going on Maya Moore. Like they were doing this stuff. Like it was that much energy, just like how Caitlin Clark is getting, but now people are just paying attention. And a lot has happened, my opinion, because the guys have jumped on board. I felt like when you have Shaq, Dwayne Wade, and those guys tweeting LeBron, tweeting about it, now it's like, oh man, this is pretty cool. Like women are really getting into Steph Curry now want to shoot out with Sabrina now. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, it's been like this. And I'm so excited that women are getting their flowers. And even at our level, basketball is being appreciated. I mean, like we're now on the ESPN. There's an app created, like we can get all our games there. People don't have to kind of wait or say, man, we only got one game on TV this year. Like you get the opportunity to watch all those games. So I'm excited for it. I just want this generation to understand how to continue to keep paying it forward. I talk to our student athletes about this all the time. They just like their moment, but you're setting that platform for somebody else. And so I want them to keep going harder and harder for it because I know for me, when it was Nikki McCray to Dawn Staley to Teresa Edwards, like I was so grateful for what they've created in the women's game. I just didn't want to let them down. And I want our athletes to appreciate what the people in the past have done. Because that's how all the NIL deals have been, orchestrated because of what people in the past done. And now they're getting the benefits of it. I mean, I think about this, the 3 weeks and how much money they made off of us. Oh my God, I need a kickback for what we did. And like I'm going to stores and I'm seeing these t-shirts that says the 3 weeks should inherit the earth. And I'm like, I don't get not $1 of it, but I'm grateful that I'm seeing that these young women are
Hmm.
getting that money because they deserve it. Like, we play a great game, a brand of basketball. We move, we pass, we share the ball. We got athletes playing above the rim now, like that can dunk. Like it's just building more and more. I just want our athletes, young athletes, to become a student of the game. They got the gifts, they got the athleticism, they got the speed. Just now I want them to become smarter up here in it. But that's being invested into the game. So doing whatever it takes.
Perfect. And I'm curious in your take here too. I mean, for girls and women everywhere, seeing the rise of women's basketball in popularity is certainly encouraging. But for Black girls and Black women especially, what do you think is the cultural significance of this increased popularity of women's basketball?
I mean, you seeing us go out there and do it. I mean, that's such great representation and it's inspiring. When I grew up, my favorite two players was Clyde Drexler and Charles Barkley. No knock on it because I didn't get to see Teresa Edwards and Dawn and them play all the time. There were just spurts of when they gave us those actions or Dina Head or Bridget Gordon at Tennessee. I didn't get to see them consistently all the time. Now you get to see women. I'm telling you, this media, this how even social media, you get 2, 3 minute blur of these phenomenal plays that athletes or young women are making today. It's the coolest thing. It's the hype about the WNBA right now with all the transaction and movement of where everybody's going. I mean, I literally just got off the phone with Skylar Digger's dad, and like I actually guessed where she would probably end up landing And we could chuckle about it because he was like, Miki, we're spot on it just because you understanding each team that's in and listed in the WNBA and what their needs are and what's potentially a great fit for like the energy that's surrounding that. Like I'm super excited for the WNBA season. I always buy my pass just because I want to support them because you know they're out there putting out a great product and I want to be a part of that too as well.
Yeah, Coach, it's been fantastic chatting with you and having you here, learning all about you, talking a little hoops, but talking a little bit of culture as well. Well, the way that I like to wrap up things here with cultural conversations is to highlight a foundation that's creating a positive impact in the world. Who would you like to show a little recognition to?
Yes, I want to the obviously the American Basketball Hall of Fame that I'm getting inducted into. I think it's a great platform. All of us don't get an opportunity to get inducted into, say, the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame nor the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. But the fact that they're open this up this platform for people who have done some great things behind it, like I think this is something definitely to get behind and support Lamont Showboat. If y'all don't know who he is, you need to go look him up. This is a great vision that he's trying to push the envelope on, and I think it's going to be great. And then also, big shout out and Tasha Butts Foundation. I know her mom wanted to create this foundation to be able to give back to young athletes in the Miller Village area of Georgia, uh, to those that want that opportunity and maybe don't have the resources. Her mom want to be able to create that platform for it. So I think that those two foundations are really, really important, and we should get behind them and support them.
Excellent. Thank you, Coach. And I always wrap things up by giving a shout out to the Black Play-by-Play Fund and Scholarship. It's a big opportunity for anyone who's young, Black, looking to get into play-by-play broadcasting, looking to be on the mic rather than on the court. This is an organization that helps get young broadcasters started. Really look into it if you are interested in broadcasting. Well, that is the Hall of Famer, Winthrop women's basketball head coach Semeka Randall. I truly appreciate your time, Coach, and thank you so much for joining us.
Darius, thank you for having me. I had a ball.
This has been awesome. Thank you, viewers, for tuning into Cultural Conversations with the Big South. We'll see you next time.